The first time my sister called Avery Cross a mistake, Avery was standing close enough to hear it. We were in my kitchen 10 days after the night on Route 9, the yellow pad beside the coffee maker, its first page curled from use. Marcus was opening wine. Rachel was moving plates around like that counted as helping. Mrs. Calloway from next door had brought a casserole and stayed long past politeness. Avery stood at the sink, washing a knife she had not dirtied, because nervous people look for tasks that make them seem less breakable. Rachel lowered her voice. "Caleb, I'm serious. Letting a woman with no job, no apartment, and an ex calling her unstable move into your spare room after one night is a mistake." The knife stopped under the water. The faucet kept running. My hand tightened around the edge of the counter. I had heard people worry before. Marcus had asked whether I knew what I was doing. That was fair. But Rachel's word did something different. Unstable. Rachel had not guessed that word. She had been handed it. Avery dried the knife carefully, set it flat on the counter, and reached for the yellow legal pad. "Did Evan tell you to use that word?" she asked. Rachel's hand tightened around the dish towel. "I don't know, Evan." The faucet kept running, but the kitchen had gone silent enough for me to hear Avery breathe. Avery opened it to a page I had never seen. At the top, written in her careful handwriting, were 3 words. Words he uses. Underneath them, unstable, desperate, manipulative, dangerous, when embarrassed. Nobody moved. Then Avery's phone buzzed on the counter. A message lit the screen. "Tell Caleb what the report says, or I will." Rachel looked at me. Marcus looked at Avery. Mrs. Calloway quietly set her casserole dish down. Avery's face went pale, but her voice stayed level. "I have nowhere left to go," she said. "But that does not mean I have nothing left to lose." The faucet still ran, and Avery stood beside a knife, while the room watched her become a rumor in real time. So I reached past her and turned the water off. Then I said, "Nobody gets to use that word in my house until someone tells me who taught it to them." Rachel stared at me like I had chosen a side. Maybe I had. 10 days earlier, Avery had been a stranger in a gray sweater on the shoulder of Route 9, standing beside a dead car at 11:13 at night, with steam rising from the hood and one hand wrapped around the strap of a canvas tote. She looked cold enough to shake, but too proud to admit it. "I'm fine," she said before I even stepped out of my truck. Her car disagreed. The engine gave off that sweet, burnt smell coolant makes when it has gone somewhere it should not. The hazard lights flashed across her face. Orange, dark, orange, dark. "I'm not here to scare you," I said. "That's what people say when they're trying not to sound scary." Faire point. I stopped near my front bumper and held up both hands. "Name's Caleb Hart. I live 10 minutes from here. I fix houses for a living, not cars. But I know enough to tell when a radiator hose has quit its job." She did not smile. "Can I look?" "You don't have to." I know. That seemed to matter to her, the difference between obligation and choice. She stepped back without fully turning her back to me. The hose was split. The tow truck was necessary. The night was not going to fix itself. "Do you have someone to call?" I asked. Avery looked down at her phone. The screen was cracked at one corner, battery red. Her thumb moved over the contacts but did not press anything. "Not really," she said. "Family? Too complicated. Friends? Too far. Or too tired." A yellow legal pad had slipped halfway out of her tote and rested against the passenger seat. I did not mean to read it, but the top line was written in all caps, dark and careful. "Things I need to rebuild." Below it were fragments of a life that had been taken apart too quickly. "Find work. Fix car. Save deposit. Stop apologizing for needing help. Figure out who still believes me." Before I could look away, Avery pushed the pad deeper into the bag. "That's private," I figured. "Then don't figure anything else." Her voice should have sounded rude. It didn't. It sounded exhausted. "We called the tow company from my truck because her battery gave up during the second ring. I gave her my full name, my address, my license plate, and the number of the sheriff's station before she asked. She watched me through the warm air from the heater. That is a strange amount of effort for a man with bad intentions. I'd rather you think I'm strange than polite yourself into danger." That was the first time she almost smiled. Not fully. Just enough to prove her face remembered how. The tow truck came 25 minutes later. I did not know about Evan, any report, or the word unstable already planted in other people's mouths. When the driver loaded her car onto the truck, Avery stood beside me with both arms crossed tight against the cold. I can wait at the diner, she said. You can. I probably should. Maybe. She turned to me then, irritated by my refusal to decide for her. Are you always this careful? Only when someone has a good reason not to trust me. The tow truck pulled away. Route 9 went quiet again. Avery looked down the dark road, then at my truck, then at the pad tucked under her arm. I have nowhere left to go, she said. I heard the humiliation in it. Not just fear, not just need. The specific shame of a person forced to say the truest thing in front of someone who had not earned the right to hear it. I should have said, I can drive you somewhere. I should have said, let's call someone. Instead, I said the impossible line, then stay with me. She looked at me like I had offered her something dangerous. Maybe I had. Because shelter is never just shelter when someone has spent too long being told that needing help proves something ugly about them. That first night, I gave her the spare room and slept badly down the hall, listening for footsteps, for a door, for any sign that kindness had become pressure without meaning to. In the morning, Avery was already at my kitchen table with the pad open and a pen in her hand. She had added one new line. Do not make Caleb regret stopping. I pretended not to see it. For 10 days, that was the shape of us. Coffee, job applications, a repaired car she did not seem ready to drive anywhere permanent, quiet dinners, careful thanks. A woman trying to take up as little space as possible in a house that had been too quiet for 2 years. Then Rachel came over. Then she said unstable. Then Avery opened the pad to words he uses. And the past walked into my kitchen through a message on her phone. Tell Caleb what the report says, or I will. I looked at Avery. What report? For the first time since I had met her, she did not try to make herself smaller. She closed it with one hand and kept the other flat on top of it. The one with my name on it, she said, and his lie inside it. Rachel left first, because anger gave her something cleaner to do than embarrassment. She folded the dish towel, placed it beside the sink, and told me we would talk later. Marcus stayed long enough to cap the wine and give me one look across the kitchen. Not judgment, not agreement either. Just the look of a man who had watched a quiet dinner turn into evidence. When the house finally went still, Avery stood beside the counter with the pad pressed flat under her palm. I can leave tonight, she said. The sentence was ready. She had packed it before anyone asked her to go. No, I said. Her eyes moved to the hallway, then to the spare room, measuring distance the way some people measure debt. Caleb. No, I repeated quieter. Not because Rachel got scared. Not because Evan sent a message. And not because you think leaving first makes you less of a problem. That landed. Her fingers curled against the cover of the pad. I wanted to ask about the report. I wanted to ask who Evan was to her, and why my sister had somehow carried his word into my kitchen. But Avery's shoulders had gone too straight, which I had already learned meant she was holding herself together with wire. So I took the knife from the counter, dried it, and put it back in the block. A small task. Something ordinary. No confession demanded. You should be angry, she said. I'm working toward informed. That's a careful answer. I'm a careful man. Avery gave a faint sound that almost became a laugh. No, you're a man who thinks careful and harmless are the same thing. I should have defended myself. Instead, I opened the cabinet and took down 2 mugs. She had noticed something most people missed. My ex-wife, Lauren, used to say I could make a room calm and still disappear inside it. Calm solved problems, got invoices paid, and kept family dinners from turning into courtrooms. By the end of my marriage, calm had become my favorite hiding place. Lauren did not leave because I was cruel. She left because I was easy to live around and hard to reach. After the divorce, I built a life that required very little of anyone. Work, groceries, Friday beers with Marcus, Sunday diner breakfasts, and a spare room full of boxes I did not need. Then Avery's car broke down. Now there was a legal pad beside my coffee maker, a woman in my kitchen who flinched at certain words, and my sister thinking I had mistaken a crisis for a calling. I poured tea because it was something to do with my hands. Avery watched the steam rise from the mug. Evan was my boyfriend, she said. Then my supervisor. Then somehow the person everyone believed more than me. That order matters, she added. He was good at making concerns sound like documentation. At work, if I disagreed with him, he'd say I seemed overwhelmed. If I asked for numbers, he'd ask whether I was sleeping. If I got quiet, he'd call it shutting down. By the time the layoffs happened, he had already taught people how to describe me. She touched the edge of the pad but did not open it. I started writing the words down because I needed to know I wasn't imagining the pattern. How did Rachel hear it? Avery swallowed. People talk to people. Evan knows how to sound reasonable. He probably didn't call your sister directly. He wouldn't be that messy. Maybe someone from my old office knows someone she knows. My phone buzzed on the counter. Rachel. I did not answer. A second later, a text appeared. I'm not trying to hurt her. I'm trying to protect you. Avery saw my face change and looked away before I could hide the screen. Answer her, she said. Not right now. Caleb, if you ignore your family because of me, I become exactly what they're afraid I am. It irritated me because it was almost fair. So I called Rachel from the back porch. You need to be careful, Rachel said. I know you used a word you didn't come up with. Silence. I heard things, she said. From who? A friend of a friend. Someone who used to work with her company. And that was enough? It was enough to worry me. No. Worry asks questions. You brought a verdict into my kitchen and whispered it where she could hear. Rachel exhaled hard. You always do this. Do what? Turn yourself into the reasonable one, so nobody can say you're angry. The porch light hummed above me. I had no answer ready because she was not wrong. You did it with Lauren, Rachel said, softer now. You make yourself useful, so nobody can ask whether you're actually present. Behind me, through the window, Avery stood at the kitchen table. She had opened the legal pad again and was writing something slowly. I'm not asking you to dislike her, Rachel said. I'm asking you not to disappear into someone else's emergency. I hear you. Do you? Yes. And you owe Avery an apology for using that word before you understood where it came from. Rachel went quiet long enough for the porch boards to creak under my feet. Maybe I do, she said. Not enough. More than I expected. When I came back inside, Avery had closed the pad. The tea sat untouched. Your sister loves you, she said. She has an aggressive way of showing it. She's not wrong to worry. Neither are you. I sat across from her, leaving the table between us because the air already held too much. What did you write? I asked, nodding toward the pad. She hesitated, then turned it around. Stop letting other people's fear decide where I sleep. The line was not dramatic. That made it hurt more. You shouldn't have to make a list just to stay in a safe room, I said. I don't know how to stay anywhere without rules. Then make one more. Her pen hovered. What? No one in this house gets to call you unstable. Including you. She stared at the page. For a moment I thought she might cry, but she only pressed the pen down and wrote it carefully, like a person signing something fragile into law. No one gets to call me unstable, including me. The next morning, she was up before I was. I found her in the driveway, standing beside her repaired car with the legal pad tucked under one arm and her phone in the other. The trunk was open. One bag sat inside. The old version of me would have asked a soft question and accepted whatever answer caused the least damage. Instead, I stood by the garage door and said, Are you leaving because you want to, or because you think that's what makes this easier for everyone else? Avery shut her eyes. Then her phone buzzed. She looked at it, went very still, and turned the screen toward me. Unknown number. Ask her why she signed page 7. Below the message was a photo, not of Avery, of my house, taken from across the street, sometime before sunrise. The old wound in me wanted calm. The man standing in the driveway reached for his keys. Avery caught my wrist before I moved. Don't, she said. That's what he wants. He wants you angry before you know anything. I looked at her hand on my wrist, then at the photo of my own front porch on her phone. What is page 7? Avery's grip loosened. The first thing I should have told you, she said. Avery did not take her hand off my wrist until I put the keys back on the hook. The keys made a small metal sound against the wall, too ordinary for what had just appeared on her phone. A photo of my front porch. A message from a number with no name. Ask her why she signed page 7. Avery closed the trunk of her car slowly. Inside, I said. Not out here. We went through the side door into the mudroom. My work boots were lined against the wall. Yesterday's mail waited by the laundry basket. The normal things stayed normal. That was the part I hated most. Avery set her phone on the kitchen table but did not sit. Page 7 is from a campaign performance report, she said. For a client called Bellwether Home. Big account. Too big to lose. You signed it. Yes. What did signing mean? That I had reviewed the numbers. A simple answer, dangerous in its plainness. I pulled out a chair for myself. If I stayed standing, I would start moving. and moving felt too close to doing what Evan wanted. Avery remained by the counter. The report said a digital campaign improved qualified leads by 32%, she said. It didn't. The raw data showed maybe 11%, and even that was generous because 2 lead sources had been counted twice. You knew that when you signed. She nodded. There it was. Not the whole crime, maybe not even a crime yet, but the first hard edge of truth. Avery Cross had not invented the lie, but her name had touched it. I was supposed to flag it, she said. I did flag it. I emailed Evan and asked why the draft numbers didn't match the dashboard. He came to my desk 10 minutes later and told me the dashboard was behind. The client call was in an hour, and if I made a scene over a timing issue, I would look unstable. That word again. This time she did not flinch. She looked angry at herself for all the time she had. Did you keep the email? A screenshot. She opened an album on her phone named Receipts. The name would have been funny in another life. In this one, it felt like a person building a wall out of scraps. She turned the screen toward me. From Avery Cross. To Evan Mercer. Subject: Bellwether report numbers. Evan, the dashboard does not support 32%. Can we confirm before sending the final? Below it was his reply. Do not overcomplicate this. Adjust the language just enough to keep the client calm. I'll handle the explanation if anyone asks. The timestamp was 4:12 p.m. Avery had signed the final report at 4:37. 25 minutes. Long enough for panic, pressure, and fear to dress themselves up as survival. I told myself it was temporary, she said, that the final version would get corrected, that Evan knew something I didn't, that if I pushed too hard, I'd lose my job before rent was due. What happened after? The client renewed. Evan got praised for saving the account. I got pulled into his office 2 weeks later and told people were finding me difficult. People. Evan. She opened another screenshot. A photo of a printed report page. Page 7. A signature block at the bottom. Avery Cross Campaign Strategy Lead. The signature was hers. Above it, a chart climbed neatly in blue bars, making success look clean and undeniable. Why would he bring this up now? I asked. Because if I say he lied, he can say I signed. And if you stay quiet, then he keeps the cleaner story. A truck passed outside, slow enough that its engine lingered near the front of the house. Avery's eyes moved toward the window. The truck kept going. Still, she checked her phone again. You've been living like this? Not every minute. That is not an answer. It's the only one I have that doesn't sound pathetic. I wanted to tell her none of this made her pathetic. I also knew comfort, offered too quickly, can feel like a lid. So I asked the question that mattered. Who else knows page 7 is wrong? Avery's face changed. Nora Bell. Who is that? Former project coordinator. She pulled some of the dashboard exports. She saw the mismatch before I did. Can she confirm it? She could. But Nora has 2 kids, a mortgage, and a husband who got laid off last winter. She still works there. Evan knows that. The pad sat near the coffee maker. Avery crossed to it, opened to a blank page, and wrote Nora Bell. Then she put a box around the name. Don't make her a target, she said. I'm not making anyone anything. You're already thinking like this is a repair job. Find the leak, pull the damaged board, replace what's rotten. I did not deny it. That works on houses, she said. People are messier. The words stung because they were true. My phone rang. Marcus. You okay? He asked. No jokes. That meant Rachel had called him. Not sure yet. I'm outside. He came in through the front door because he had done so for 20 years. Then stopped. Maybe because my house no longer felt like a place where you could just walk in. Rachel forwarded me what she got, he said, placing a folded printout on the table. You need to see what's circulating. The paper was a cropped image of page 7. Avery's signature at the bottom. A red circle around her name. Below it, typed in a message bubble from someone else. This is the report she signed before the breakdown. Be careful. She targets sympathetic men. Avery sat down then. Not dramatically. Her knees simply gave up on holding the morning by themselves. This is how he does it, she said. He doesn't have to prove the whole lie. He just hands people one true piece and tells them what it means. Marcus read the page again, his jaw working. Avery opened the legal pad to a page after words he uses. At the top, she had written, things that sound true if you only see part of them. Under it, I signed, page 7. I did not write the numbers. Nora saw the original dashboard. The fourth line was unfinished. I never knew how to finish that one, she said. Her phone buzzed again. This time the message came with an attachment. Bellwether. Internal. Findings. Preliminary. PDF. The text beneath it said, "You have until noon to leave Caleb out of this." Marcus checked the clock on the microwave. De Laban, 6 a.m. Avery opened the attachment. The title page loaded slowly. Internal Misconduct Review Subject. Avery Cross. Her name sat there, centered and official. Like the lie had learned how to wear a suit. Avery put the phone flat on the table. "I think," she said, "they already blamed me." By noon, the lie had grown legs. It walked through my sister's phone, Marcus's printer, Mrs. Calloway's kitchen, and by the time I drove to Harrigan's diner, it was already sitting in a booth. I only went because Avery had not eaten since the message arrived. She said she was not hungry. Her hands said otherwise. They kept opening and closing around the pen she had carried from the house to the truck, like a person could hold herself together if her fingers stayed busy. "Soup," I said. "You can hate it after you eat half." That sounds like a hostage negotiation. I do a lot of renovation work. Same tone. That almost helped. We were waiting near the counter when the bell rang. Rachel came in first, red-eyed and stubborn. Marcus followed, not quite invited, not quite willing to stay away. Mrs. Calloway came in behind them with a canvas grocery bag and the guilty posture of someone who had found a better story than her errand. 3 witnesses. 4, if you counted Don Harrigan behind the register. Avery saw them and folded into politeness so quickly it hurt to watch. "Rachel," she said. Rachel stopped near the pie case. "I owe you an apology." Avery's chin lifted a fraction. "For the word?" "For the word," Rachel said. "And for saying it in my brother's kitchen like I had earned the right. That should have been the start of something better." Then Rachel's phone buzzed. So did Marcus's. So did Mrs. Calloway's, though she tried to hide it in her grocery bag and only made the sound louder. Nobody reached for their phone at first. Avery did. Her screen showed a group text I had never seen before. Someone had added her, me, Rachel, Marcus, and 3 numbers without names. The sender was Evan Mercer. "I'm sorry to involve everyone, but Caleb deserves transparency before this becomes more damaging." A second message arrived. "Avery has a documented history of unstable behavior around professional accountability." Don stopped wiping the counter. Rachel whispered, "Oh my God." Avery's thumb hovered above the screen. She wanted to type. I could see the sentence forming in her face, the need to correct the word. Then the third message came. "Any public denial she makes may violate the confidentiality terms attached to the Bellwether Review." The trap closed. If she defended herself, he would call it a breach. If she stayed quiet, the silence would look like guilt. Avery lowered the phone. The old version of me would have made my voice soft. I would have said, "Let's not do this here." I would have gotten the soup, guided everyone outside, made the problem smaller by making myself smaller around it. My hand moved toward my wallet. Avery noticed. "Don't pay and leave," she said. It was quiet, but it stopped me. Evan sent another message. "Caleb, I don't know what she has told you, but men like you are exactly who she targets when she needs shelter from consequences." The diner did not gasp. Real life rarely gives you clean sounds like that. Marcus put his phone face down. Rachel covered her mouth. Mrs. Calloway looked at Avery, then away. Avery held the pen until her knuckle went white. "Is any of it true?" Don asked. He should not have asked. He was a diner owner, not a judge. But he had known me since I was 17, and that was the problem with small towns. People mistook familiarity for jurisdiction. I said, "Don." Avery touched my sleeve. "Not for comfort, for warning. Do not fight this the way he wants." So I turned to the counter and kept my voice even. "What you just saw was not proof. It was a man sending accusations to an audience." Don's face reddened. "I wasn't trying to. I know. That was my bad habit, showing up in polished shoes. I know. It's okay. Don't worry about it." Avery pulled her hand back. "No, it was not okay." I faced Don again. "Actually, no. You asked a woman if a mass accusation about her was true while she was standing in front of you, unable to answer without risking legal trouble. That is not nothing." Don swallowed. Rachel stared at me like she had never seen that version of her brother in public. Maybe she had not. Evan's next message included a screenshot. Page 7 again. Avery's signature circled in red. Below it, he wrote, "This is not character assassination. This is a pattern." Avery made a small sound through her nose. Not a sob, not a laugh. Recognition. "He loves that word," she said. Marcus frowned. "Pattern?" Avery nodded once. "He uses it when one fact is too weak to stand alone." Her phone rang before anyone could respond. Evan Mercer. The name lit the counter screen like it belonged there. Avery did not touch it. Rachel said, "Don't answer." Mrs. Calloway said too softly, "Maybe she should." The public wound opened wider. Avery turned toward her. Mrs. Calloway flushed. "I only mean, if there's an explanation." "There is," Avery said. "But the explanation is exactly what he's trying to make illegal for me to give." The phone kept ringing. Then it stopped. A voicemail appeared. Avery closed her eyes. "Play it," Marcus said. "No," I said. But Avery had already pressed the button. Evan's voice filled the diner. Smooth and disappointed. "Avery, this is what I mean. You escalate private matters into public scenes, then act surprised when people get concerned. Caleb, separate your compassion from her instability before she damages your life too." There it was again. Instability. Clean. Clinical. Dangerous. Avery's eyes stayed on the phone. She wanted to speak. Every line of her body leaned toward it. Her mouth opened, then closed. Evan had built the cage well. Report. Confidentiality. Public audience. One true signature. One poisonous interpretation. Rachel took one step toward her. "Avery." Avery stepped back. Not far. Just enough to make the apology impossible to hand over neatly. "I need air," she said. She walked out before anyone could stop her. Through the diner window, I watched her cross to my truck and stand beside the passenger door without opening it. She did not cry or run. She stood with the pad against her chest, while 5 people inside tried to decide what kind of woman they had seen. I put cash on the counter for soup nobody had eaten. Marcus came beside me. "Caleb." "I know." He caught my arm. "Do you?" I looked at my sister, at Dawn, at Mrs. Calloway still holding her phone like it had burned her. Then I looked through the window at Avery. My quiet had already cost people. It cost Lauren a husband present in every practical way except the one that mattered. I would not let it cost Avery her right to stand inside her own story. I turned back to the room. "If any of you forward that message," I said, "do it knowing exactly what you are forwarding. Not evidence, not concern. A performance." Mrs. Calloway's face crumpled first. Rachel nodded once. Ashamed. Dawn moved away from the counter. But shame after injury is not the same as repair. Outside, Avery opened the truck door by herself. By the time I reached the curb, she had placed the pad on the seat between us, like a boundary neither of us had named yet. "I heard what you said," she told me. "Good. It doesn't fix it." "I know." She looked back at the diner window, where my sister stood watching us with both hands pressed to her stomach. "No," Avery said. "I don't think you do." Then she picked up the legal pad, opened to a blank page, and wrote one new line. "A room can hurt you even when nobody raises their voice." Avery did not speak on the drive home. The pad stayed on her lap, closed under both hands. Her thumb traced the softened corner of the cardboard cover like one familiar thing could keep her steady. I did not turn on the radio. Words had done enough damage for one afternoon. Back at the house, she went straight to the kitchen sink and washed her hands twice, though she had not touched anything dirty. I took the soup container from the bag, poured half into a bowl, and put it in the microwave. "I said I'm not hungry," she said. "I heard you." The microwave hummed. "I'm still heating it." She leaned against the counter, too tired to argue. The back door beside the laundry room had been sticking for weeks. While the soup warmed, I got my tool bag from the mudroom and knelt by the lock plate. A small problem, a visible one. Screwdriver, brass plate, warped frame. No hidden meaning unless I put one there. Avery watched from the kitchen island. "You always do that," she said. "Fix doors? Find something broken that will hold still." The screwdriver paused in my hand. She was right, often enough to be inconvenient. The microwave beeped. I set the bowl in front of her with a spoon, and no comment. Then, I went back to the door. She ate 3 bites because I was not watching. "Caleb," she said after a while. "There's more." I kept my hand on the screwdriver. "Page 7 more, or Evan more?" "Me more." That made the tool feel heavier. Avery pushed the bowl away and opened the pad. "Not to words he uses." not to the list about rebuilding, but to a page near the back folded twice. At the top she had written, "Things I did wrong even if I was scared." Under it, only one line. I gave him Nora's name. She did not explain right away. The house settled around us, the small clicks of old wood cooling after the afternoon sun. "Nora saw the numbers before I did," Avery said. "She came to me because she trusted me. She was younger, and I was the one who knew how Evan worked. She said the dashboard didn't match the report draft. And you told Evan?" Avery nodded. The screwdriver slipped against the brass and scraped the plate. "I told myself I was protecting the process," she said. "That if I went to him quietly, he would correct the numbers without embarrassing anyone. But part of me knew I was bringing him the person who had noticed. Why? Because I wanted him to handle it. Because I wanted to keep my job. Because I wanted to believe he was still someone I could reason with." Her voice cracked on that last part, but she did not use it as cover. "He moved Nora off the account the next morning," she said. "Not fired. Nothing obvious. Just reassigned to a smaller client where she couldn't see Bellwether anymore. She asked me if I had said anything. I told her I'd only asked for clarification." "You lied to her?" "Yes." The answer was clean. Too clean. I stood and set the screwdriver on the counter carefully, because I did not want to discover throwing tools at 33. Avery watched the motion. "I didn't just sign a page, Caleb. I helped him know where the threat was coming from. I didn't mean to, but intention does not change where Nora ended up. I wanted to say she had been scared. Evan had used pressure and all the careful tools of a man who never left fingerprints. Both things were true. Neither erased Nora. So I said, 'I need to be angry for a minute.'" Avery flinched, then nodded. "Okay. Not cruel. Not done. Just angry." "I understand." "No," I said, quieter. "You might not. I have spent most of my life making anger small enough that other people don't have to deal with it. I'm not doing that right now." Her eyes shone, but she held still. I carried the bowl to the stove, because my hands needed a job. "When did you plan to tell me?" I asked. "Tonight. Before or after Evan forced it?" She deserved the question. I hated asking it. "After," she said. The word landed without defense. "I wrote your name on the first list because I was afraid of becoming a cost you didn't understand," she said. "Then I kept deciding one more hour of not telling you was mercy. For you. For me. I don't know anymore." I leaned against the opposite counter. "You don't get to protect me by managing what I know. I know. And you don't get to decide that my kindness only stays clean if you keep the ugly parts somewhere I can't see them." Her mouth tightened. "That's what Evan did," I said. "He chose which pieces people got, and called the picture truth." Avery put a hand flat over the folded page. "I know." No excuse followed. That was the only reason I stayed in the room. The back door hung open behind me, the loosened lock plate waiting on the floor. Cold air slipped into the kitchen. Avery picked up a rag from the laundry basket, wet one corner under the faucet, and came toward me. "You have grease on your hand," she said. "I'm fine." "You're not." She stopped close enough to reach me but did not touch until I turned my palm over. The rag moved across my knuckles, careful and practical. A small act, not an apology big enough to solve anything, but an honest one. "I let people call me unstable because fighting it made me sound worse," she said. "I let myself call what I did survival because guilt felt too expensive. Both things can be true. I was cornered. I also hurt someone who trusted me." Her thumb brushed the edge of my wrist by accident. Neither of us moved. The kitchen changed by inches, not into romance, not yet, into the dangerous warmth of being seen after a hard truth and not abandoned. Avery's eyes lifted to mine. "I don't want pity from you," she said. "You don't have it. I don't want to become the woman you saved because your house was quiet." The sentence struck harder than any accusation from Evan had. I took one step back, not because I wanted distance, because wanting less distance would have been too easy right then. "If anything ever happens between us," I said, "it can't start with me rescuing you from a wreck someone else made." Avery's face changed, pain and relief arriving together. "And it can't start with me hiding the part of the wreck I helped cause," she said. "No." She folded the rag once, then again, until it became a small square in her hands. "I need to call Nora." "Are you asking me for permission?" "I'm asking you not to tell me it's enough." "It isn't." She nodded like the honesty steadied her more than comfort would have. I fixed the lock plate while she typed a message she rewrote 6 times. I did not read over her shoulder. She turned the phone toward me when she was done anyway. "Nora, this is Avery. I owe you the truth and an apology. I told Evan you had questioned the bellwether numbers, and I lied when you asked me. I was scared, but that does not excuse what happened after. If you never want to answer me, I understand. If you do, I will not ask you to risk your job. I just need to stop pretending my silence only hurt me. She pressed send before she could talk herself out of it. Then she wrote one more line on the folded page. Tell the truth before it becomes another debt. Her phone buzzed 5 minutes later. Not from Nora. From Evan. Last chance, Avery. If Nora gets involved, she loses everything. And so does Caleb. Avery placed the phone beside the legal pad. The soup had gone cold. The back door closed cleanly for the first time in weeks. Nothing else did. The legal letter arrived at 9:17 the next morning, folded into an email with a subject line designed to make innocent people feel guilty. Notice of confidentiality breach and tortious interference. Avery read the first sentence, then slid the laptop toward me. It's from Bellwether's counsel, she said, or pretending to be. The letter claimed Avery had disclosed protected internal materials, contacted a current employee with intent to disrupt operations, and involved an unrelated third party in a pending misconduct review. Unrelated third party meant me. My name appeared in paragraph 4. Caleb Hart, a local contractor currently providing housing and material support to Miss Cross, may be in possession of confidential information obtained without authorization. I read it twice because my name had entered the lie in a suit and tie. Avery stood behind my chair. This is why I should leave. No. Caleb. No, I said again, but this time the word sounded tired because no had become easier than a plan. Then Dale Whitcomb called. Dale was my biggest client that month, and gossip always reached him before weather did. Caleb, he said, I hate to ask this, but is there some legal situation happening at your house? What did you hear, Dale? Nothing specific, just that you're mixed up with a woman from some fraud review. I've got tenants. Insurance. You understand. You're asking whether I'm still safe to hire. I'm asking whether we should pause the duplex job until things settle. The duplex job paid 2 crews for 3 weeks. 3 names sat under mine on the repair calendar. 3 men with families who did not care about Evan Mercer, Bellwether Home, or Page 7. Avery whispered, Tell him yes. I covered the phone. Don't manage my answer. Then I told Dale the truth. Nothing about my work had changed. If he wanted to pause, I could not stop him. He paused. When the call ended, I wrote duplex. Paused on the calendar because pretending not to see a cost does not make it smaller. Avery sat down hard. That is real money, she said. Yes. For people who work for you. Yes. And you still think me staying here is simple? I never said simple. You keep saying no when I say I should leave. Like the word fixes rent, payroll, lawyers, rumors. She was not wrong. Avery opened the legal pad and wrote, Costs Caleb did not agree to. I crossed the kitchen and put my hand over the line before she could add anything. I agreed to shelter, I said. I did not agree to being lied to. We handled that yesterday. This is more than shelter. I know. Then say the part you keep making careful. Outside, a truck slowed near the curb, then moved on. I took my hand off the page. If you stay, I said, we do this clean. No more hiding pieces, because you're afraid I'll change my mind. No more letting me walk into rooms with half the truth. No more deciding that disappearing protects me. That sounds like terms. It is. For the spare room? For trust. What are your terms? I asked. She looked toward the hallway, toward the room where her bag still sat half-packed. I won't be loved because I'm homeless, she said. I won't let pity become rent. And if anything ever happens between us, it cannot happen while I am still standing in the wreckage and calling your house safety, because I have no other option. My chest hurt with how much I wanted to disagree. I could not find a useful lie. Okay, I said. The doorbell rang before the silence could become something softer. Rachel stood on the porch with a bakery box in one hand and shame already on her face. I brought muffins, she said, because apparently my apology instincts are suburban and useless. Avery stayed near the kitchen table. Rachel saw the legal letter. Her face changed. I forwarded the screenshot to Marcus, she said. Only Marcus. But I didn't ask where it came from before I treated it like warning instead of bait. Avery said nothing. Rachel set the bakery box on the counter, unopened. I'm sorry, she said. Not because I was worried. I'm still worried. But because I let someone else choose the shape of my worry. Avery's fingers rested on the legal pad. Thank you. It was not forgiveness. It was a receipt. Marcus arrived 15 minutes later with the name of a lawyer written on the back of an old gas receipt. His cousin had used her during a business dispute, and according to Marcus, she was terrifying in the useful way. The lawyer's receptionist gave us a same-day phone consult at 2. Until then, we made rules. No live calls from Evan. No forwarding messages. Screenshots saved. No deleting anything. No contacting Nora until the lawyer advised it. No discussing Bellwether at the diner, in my driveway, or through Rachel's apology muffin network. Rachel objected to the name, then accepted it. At 1:58, Avery sat beside me at the kitchen table for the call. Not across. Not close enough to pretend this was romance. Beside me, because we were both named in different ways now. The lawyer, Mara Keene, had a voice like a locked filing cabinet. "Miss Cross," she said, "this letter is designed to frighten you into silence. That does not mean it is harmless." Then she turned to me without seeing me. "Mr. Hart, do not reply to Bellwether or Mr. Mercer. Do not delete messages. Do not make public statements. And if photos of your home are being sent as intimidation, file a police report." Avery flinched at police. Mara kept going. "The practical issue is this. Your housing arrangement can be framed against both of you. They may argue you are influencing her, benefiting her, or helping her retaliate." There it was. The cost with walls around it. After the call, Avery wrote one line under our boundaries. "If I stay, it has to be because truth can survive here." Then my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Nice boundaries. Ask Nora how long she kept the original dashboard." Below it was a photo of Nora Bell's front door. The photo changed the size of the problem. Evan had reached into my house through screens and rumors. Now he had put another woman's porch in my hand. "Stay quiet, or I start hurting the people who can prove you are not crazy." Avery set my phone down with the care people use around broken glass. "Do not call Nora," she said. "I wasn't going to." "You were. I was thinking about it." "That is close enough." My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "Tell Marcus thank you. People are so helpful when they are worried." Marcus's face drained. "What did you click?" I asked. "I looked at one public profile last night." "That's it." Avery gave a tired, flat laugh. "That's all Evan needs. He doesn't need loyalty. He just needs curiosity." Then one of my crew leads texted, "Boss, are we still good for next week? Heard something weird." Practical cost had become reputation cost. Avery stood. "I'm going to pack." "No," Rachel said. Avery turned on her. "You don't get a vote." Rachel absorbed it without defense. "I know." That word sounded different from her. Smaller. Earned. Avery went down the hall. I followed, but stopped at the spare room door. She pulled her bag from the closet and set it on the bed. Not frantic. Worse. Efficient. "If I leave now, the story loses fuel," she said. "No, it gets a clean ending." "What does that mean?" "It means he gets to say, 'You ran,' because the truth caught up. I am not staying so you can win an argument. I'm asking you not to make fear look like choice." Her hands stopped. The legal pad was on the bed beside the bag. She opened it, wrote one line, and turned it toward me. Leaving before noon would be easier to explain. Then she crossed it out so hard the pen nearly tore through. "This is what he does," she said. "He gives me two bad options and waits for me to choose the one that proves him right." Her phone buzzed on the blanket. "Nora." For a moment, neither of us moved. Avery opened the message with both hands. "I got your apology. I'm angry. I'm also scared. The original dashboard export exists. I saved it after they moved me off the account because I knew something was wrong. But Evan just called my manager and said I'm leaking proprietary data. If I help you, I could lose my job." A second message followed. "And Avery, you did hurt me." Avery sat on the bed like the sentence had weight. "She answered," I said. "She answered to tell me I earned her anger." "Yes, and she is right." Avery typed, deleted, typed again. "I will not ask you to risk your job. I am sorry. You deserve better from me." She sent it and placed the phone face down. Then the doorbell rang. When we returned to the kitchen, Mrs. Calloway stood near the front window with her empty casserole dish pressed against her stomach. "There are two people across the street," she said. "One of them has a camera." Marcus moved toward the door. "Stop," Avery said. Everyone turned. She had come back with the legal pad in one hand and her packed bag in the other. The bag hit the floor beside the table. "Not leaving." Arriving. Don't give him angry footage, she said. A message arrived in the group text. Avery escalates situations, then hides behind men who think they are protecting her. Under it was a photo of Marcus by the door, hand on the knob, jaw set. Evan had posted it before Marcus even opened the door. Avery stared at the image. Then she frowned. Wait. She enlarged the photo and pointed to the corner where the kitchen table showed through the front window. The yellow legal pad sat open. The angle is wrong, she said. I went to the narrow window beside the mudroom. A black phone was wedged behind the planter on the porch rail, camera facing inward. My skin went cold. Evan had not just heard about our boundaries. He had been watching the house. Marcus lifted both hands. Do not touch it. Police first. Then the group text lit up again. You always were dramatic, Avery. Rachel made a small sound. He sent that after the phone was found. No, Avery said. She pointed to the timestamp. He sent it before Caleb reached the planter. The timing sat there. Sharp. Evan had anticipated the discovery because he knew where the phone was. A crack. Not enough to end him. Enough to prove the mask could slip. My old wound wanted me calm. My anger wanted me stupid. Avery touched the back of my hand. Police report, she said. Not revenge. I nodded. She opened the pad and wrote while Rachel called Mara Keene, while Marcus took photos without moving the device, while Mrs. Calloway stood at the window and blocked the camera's view with her own body. He does not get to choose what my leaving means. Then, under it, he does not get to choose what my staying means either. Her phone buzzed again. Nora. I'll talk to the lawyer. Not Evan, not you alone, the lawyer. Avery pressed the phone against her chest. Outside, the man with the camera crossed the street fast, suddenly less interested in the story he had come to capture. The world had turned against us most of the day, but not all of it. Not anymore. Mara Keene did not hold the meeting in her office. Too small, she said. Small rooms make frightened people look guilty, and powerful people look cornered. We want neither. So she rented a conference room above the county records building, with gray carpet, bad coffee, and a long table. Avery brought the yellow legal pad, not because Mara asked for it, because it was the one record Evan had not written for her. Nora Bell arrived early, wearing a navy coat and holding a USB drive in one fist. She did not hug Avery. Avery did not ask her to. Thank you for coming, Avery said. Nora's mouth tightened. I'm not here for you. I know. That was the first honest thing between them that did not ask for forgiveness. Evan arrived with Bellwether's HR director and a company attorney, wearing practice concern like character. He greeted Mara. He greeted Rachel, who had come because she had been used. He nodded to Marcus. He did not greet Avery. His first mistake. Not legal, not useful in a document, but everyone saw it. Mara placed 3 folders on the table. We are here to address the Bellwether report, the circulation of accusations against Miss Cross, and the surveillance device found at Mr. Hart's residence. The company attorney lifted one hand. We are not admitting. No one asked you to, Mara said. Evan gave a small smile. Then his eyes landed on the legal pad. The smile thinned. Still making lists? He asked. Avery's hand stayed on the cover. Mara's pen stopped moving. Rachel turned toward him. Evan realized the sentence had come out too easily. A crack does not have to be loud. Sometimes it is only a polished man knowing the wrong private thing too soon. How would you know about her lists? Mara asked. Evan recovered fast. Avery was always organized at work. No, Rachel said. You said lists. Evan looked at her, and for half a second, the concern dropped. Avery wrote one word on the pad. Lists. Then she pushed it aside. I don't want him to be the story, she said. Mara nodded. Then start with page 7. Panic crossed Avery's face. Evan saw it and leaned back, waiting for her to become the version of herself he had been describing. My hand tightened under the table, not on hers, not where anyone could call it rescue, just into a fist against my own knee. Avery opened the folder. I signed page 7, she said. Evan's attorney shifted. Ready. Avery continued. That is true. I reviewed the final Bellwether campaign report and signed the page claiming qualified leads improved by 32%. That number was wrong. Evan stayed still. I did not create the number, Avery said. I did not profit from it. And I did not tell Nora the truth when she asked if I had identified her as the person who caught the mismatch. Nora's eyes lowered. Avery turned toward her, not the attorneys. I did hurt you. I was scared, and I handed your name to someone who used it against you. I'm sorry. You do not owe me help for that. No one softened it. Nora placed the USB drive on the table. I'm not helping because I forgive you, she said. I'm helping because the dashboard was changed. Evan's chair made a small sound. Mara took the USB. Mr. Mercer, would you like to explain the difference between the dashboard export and the final report? Evan folded his hands. Campaign data is fluid. Avery knows that. Leads can be categorized differently depending on pipeline stage. 11% and 32% are not categorization, Nora said. His gaze moved to her. Nora, I understand this has been stressful, but you were junior on that account. Nora flinched, then sat straighter. I was junior, not blind. Evan ignored that. The issue is not whether a draft metric changed. The issue is Avery's pattern of emotional escalation when held accountable. There it was. The bridge he always built from fact to character. Avery placed both palms flat on the table. No. The word was not loud. Evan blinked. No, she said again. We are not leaving the number because you prefer my tone, the company attorney said. Miss Cross. No. I signed a false page. That is my mistake. I stayed quiet too long. That is my mistake. But my mistake is not your innocence. Rachel's eyes filled. Evan's face changed by one small degree. That's a dramatic line, he said. Avery glanced at the legal pad, then back at him. It's a true one. Mara connected the USB. The screen showed Nora's original dashboard export, then the final report. The difference was ugly because it was simple. Evan leaned forward. That export is not authenticated. Nora said. It has system metadata. Metadata can be copied. Mara opened another file. Good point. Which is why we also have the access log. The company attorney went still. The dashboard was accessed at 4:18 p.m. by Evan Mercer, Mara said. The export was downloaded. At 4:22, the final report was edited. At 4:37, Miss Cross signed page 7. Evan answered too fast. She had the copy. Mara looked up. Which copy? The copy, Evan said. Avery had it before she signed. She knew what was in it. His attorney touched his sleeve. Too late. Avery turned one page of the pad and wrote copy. Then she looked at Evan. I never said there was a copy. No one spoke. The phrase sat there, small enough to deny and sharp enough to draw blood. Mara leaned forward. Which copy are you referring to, Mr. Mercer? He smiled late. Generic language. No, Nora said. It wasn't, Rachel whispered. He knew. Evan's mask tightened. What I know, he said, is that Avery has spent weeks living in a man's house, collecting sympathy, while trying to weaponize old workplace confusion into revenge. His eyes moved to me. Caleb, you seem like a decent man, but decent men are easy to use. The old version of me would have answered. I would have made myself the shield, and accidentally made Avery the woman behind it. So, I did not speak. Avery did. Do not talk to him because you can't control me. There. The real fight. Who got to narrate her life when one true thing could be twisted into a whole false person. Avery stood. Mara did not stop her. I was scared of losing my job, Avery said. I was scared of rent. I was scared of being called unstable until fighting the word looked like proof. I did one wrong thing and let shame keep me quiet. You used that silence and called it a pattern. She touched the legal pad once, then took her hand away. You don't get to turn my fear into your alibi. That was the line. Short, clean, hers. Evan's control broke in the smallest possible way. He pointed at the USB drive. Who gave you that? Mara's eyes sharpened. Nora sat back. Avery did not smile. You did, she said. When you taught everyone to look for what you were afraid of. After that, the meeting became procedural. The company attorney asked for a recess. Mara refused anything off the record. Bellwether's HR director stopped taking notes and started reading the access log herself. Evan no longer looked calm. He looked busy. When calm stopped working, busy was all he had left. In the hallway, Avery walked beside Nora. Not close, not healed. Just beside her long enough for Nora to say, I'm still angry. Avery nodded. I know, but I'm glad you said it. Avery's fingers tightened around the legal pad. Suemi. Outside, the afternoon had gone cold. Rachel hugged herself near the stairs. Marcus stood by the door without a joke. I waited until Avery came to me. Not as a reward. Not as rescue. as a witness who had finally seen her stand without borrowing anyone else's voice. She stopped at the bottom step. "I didn't fix it," she said. "No, but I said it." Yes. Behind us, inside the building, people were still deciding what the truth would cost them. Avery opened the pad and wrote one line before we walked to the truck. I said it before he could make me disappear again. The first thing Avery did after the meeting was not celebrate. She slept, not peacefully. She sat down on the couch with the legal pad on her lap, intending to make one more list, and woke 3 hours later with a pen uncapped in her hand and one line half-written across the page. "Things I can stop carrying alone." The sentence ended there. Bellwether placed Evan on administrative leave 2 days later. That sounded cleaner than it felt. The company issued no public apology, only called the situation under review, waiting to see how expensive the truth might become. Dale Whitcomb restarted the duplex job, but only after saying he had never really believed the worst of it. I did not thank him for that. Rachel came by with no muffins, which was how I knew the apology might be real. She stood in my kitchen, both hands wrapped around a mug Avery had given her, and said, "I wanted a villain, because villains are easier than admitting I helped one." Avery looked at her for a long moment. Then she said, "I'm not ready to make you feel better." Rachel nodded. Her eyes watered, but she did not ask to be rescued from what she had done. "Okay," she said. "I can wait." That was the first thing Rachel got right. Nora gave her statement through Mara. She did not come to the house. She did not become Avery's friend again in some neat way that would have made everyone feel less guilty. Once, a week later, Avery received a text from her. "I'm glad the access log exists." Avery read it twice, then placed the phone face down. "She didn't say she's glad I told the truth," she said. "No. She said she's glad the access log exists. That's still something." "It is." But her mouth trembled when she said it. The old house grew quiet again, after the crisis stopped knocking every hour. Not empty quiet, different quiet, the kind that lets you hear what is still broken. Avery still flinched when unknown numbers called. I still had to stop myself from turning every problem into a list of repairs. On the third week, she got a job interview with a small nonprofit 2 towns over. She wore a blue blouse, took her own car, and refused the coffee I offered because her hands were already shaking. When she came back, she stood in the doorway before speaking. "I told them about Bellwether," she said. "How much?" "Enough that they could choose not to hire me before I needed them to like me." That was not the kind of courage people clap for. It looked like a woman setting her bag down carefully because her whole body was tired from telling the truth before someone else could weaponize it. "They still want a second interview," she said. Then she cried. Not because everything was fixed, because one door had not closed when she expected it to. I did not pull her into some perfect embrace. I stood close enough for her to choose. After a moment, she leaned forward and pressed her forehead against my shoulder. "Is this pity?" she whispered. "No." "Is this rescue?" "No." "What is it?" I thought about Route 9, the dead car, the impossible sentence I had said before I understood its cost. "It's me staying while you stand," I said. That night, Avery opened the pad at the kitchen table. The first pages were crowded now. Things I need to rebuild. Words he uses. Things I did wrong even if I was scared. Boundaries. Costs. Nora's name. Evan's cracks. I said it before he could make me disappear again. She turned to the last clean page. For a while, the pen did not move. Then she wrote, "Stay because I choose to. Not because I have nowhere left to go." She slid the pad toward me. "Is that true?" I asked. "Yes." Her answer came fast enough to scare her. She took the pad back and added, "Ask again tomorrow." I smiled. "That sounds like you." "It sounds clean," she said, "but not too clean." She closed the legal pad and carried it to the drawer beside the stove, the one where I kept takeout menus, batteries, and keys that probably opened nothing anymore. She placed it inside, then left the drawer half open. "You keeping it there?" I asked. "Yes. Why not put it away for real?" She rested one hand on the drawer pull. "Because I don't want to forget who I was when surviving was all I thought I was allowed to do. But I don't want it in the middle of the table anymore." That was the closest thing to healing I trusted. Not gone, not displayed, within reach. Months later, there were still people who crossed the street before they had to decide whether to apologize. There were still mornings when Avery heard a certain tone in someone's voice and went quiet. There were still moments when my instinct was to smooth the air instead of tell the truth. But the house changed. The spare room stopped being a question. Her coffee mug stayed beside mine. The back door closed cleanly. The pad remained in the drawer, and sometimes, when Avery reached for a battery or a rubber band, her fingers brushed the cover and paused. Not long, just enough to remember. One evening, rain tapped against the kitchen windows, and the news reported a stalled car on Route 9. Avery looked up from the sink. "Do you remember exactly what you said?" she asked. "I remember." "Say it again." "So I did." "Then stay with me." She turned off the faucet, the way I had done that first terrible night in my kitchen, and looked at me with eyes that still carried some of the road, some of the diner, some of the conference room. "Not because I have nowhere left to go," she said. "No, not because you needed someone to save. No, and not because I was a mistake you decided to repair." That word found the first night again. Mistake. Rachel's word. Evan's story. The shape everyone had tried to force around Avery before she had room to breathe. I held her gaze. "Because you choose this," I said. Avery reached for my hand. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside, nothing was erased. Nothing had to be. Some people do not destroy you by shouting. They do it by writing a version of you that everyone else can believe. They take one true thing, circle it in red, and dare you to fight the whole lie without sounding guilty. But the truth of a life is not the worst page someone can find. And sometimes, the person who helps you survive is not the one who fixes your life. It is the person who finally says, "No, that is not the whole story." If this story stayed with you, tell me in the comments, have you ever had to fight for the truth of your own life? And if you want more stories like this, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.